This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On Air.
Welcome to Disabled Persons Assembly's Notable Radio Show. DPA is a systemic advocacy organisation run by and for disabled people. DPA is a pan-impaired organisation with members across the country. Over the next half hour, we'll discover how we can work collaboratively to achieve inclusion for all New Zealanders. DPA's Notable Radio Show, a whole new attitude.
Kia ora, my name is Amy Taylor and I'm your host on DPA's Notable Radio. In today's show, we're going to be talking about sensory hours and sensory spaces. Our guest today is Josh Sime, and Josh is a wonderful local advocate in the community for sensory spaces. He's done a lot of work persuading people that disabled people need to be included. So we're going to talk to Josh today. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So, kia ora. We just need you to tell us a bit about yourself or talk about your disability. You don't have to go into details if you don't want to. Just say whatever you feel comfortable with.
Cool. Yeah, I'm Josh, originally from Oamaru, born in Auckland. I have a formal diagnosis of autism. I also have OCD, PTSD, GAD, and I believe a personality disorder as well. And I've been advocating since 2019 for autism, disabilities, rangatahi and tamariki, and also for mental health.
Oh, so that's really interesting to me. So you've also been involved in the younger person space as well.
Yes, definitely. I've done a bit with trying to advocate for younger kids in state care. I was in state care as a child myself, so I understand how difficult it can be for children and teenagers while being away from home or in an unfamiliar environment.
Oh, that's very valid lived experience. So tell me, Josh, how do sensory environments, things like noise, lighting, crowds, and visual input affect you in everyday life?
So for me, I find that sensory overstimulation is very real, and it happens usually in noisy, crowded or bright environments. What I feel is I get really sweaty, I get clammy hands, I panic, I cannot focus, I'm basically in a flight or fight mode. Adrenaline is rushing through my body. It's not... It doesn't feel normal for me to be in an environment like that. My normal environment would be a quiet, calm, collected space, and I think that's what a lot of autistics would resonate with. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you for that. So tell me, if you enter a public space that hasn't been designed for you, you've told us a bit about some of the things that might happen to you. And emotionally, how does this make you feel?
I get quite overwhelmed. I get quite... I can't think. My brain just doesn't really turn off, and I get a little bit upset. And it's in a way that when I get upset, I feel anxious. I feel panicked. I want to get out of there like really quick. It's one of those really like I need to escape sort of scenarios, and I feel like everyone's judging me, and it just a lot of self-doubt and a lot of self-consciousness comes into play. Yeah.
So can you talk to me about some examples, like in Dunedin, of places that would be very hard sensory places for you?
Yes. So basically, for example, yesterday, I returned to Otago Polytech to do my studies, and basically while there at lunchtime it was extremely crowded. There was hundreds of people in the hub alone, and you couldn't walk without possibly bumping into someone. It was that crowded, and I sat down and my eyes were dashing, I was sweating, I was staring all over the place because I couldn't physically stay there, and I had to contact driving Miss Daisy and ask them to get me out of there and take me to the gym, because it was very hard to regulate, and it was very hard to. I don't think a lot of people understand that for an autistic, it's very unnatural. It's a very unnatural environment. There's been other places like even the warehouse, especially during the Christmas season, it can get really busy, and it's the same with Kmart. But that's literally all the time.
Kmart is always busy. It's always chaos.
Yeah, so it's basically nearly every place has some sort of busyness, and it's trying to find, I guess, time to go to the right time, I should say, to go to the supermarket or the warehouse or Kmart, because I just can't handle the busy times. It's a very painful process. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. And I think that one of the things that you're talking about is very physical symptoms. And I think a lot of people don't really consider how physically affected some people can be by certain environments. So let's talk about sensory hours. When we talk about sensory hours, what does that mean to you?
So for me, sensory hours is basically an hour, maybe even more, per week that an organisation will implement basically more, just trying to think how to word it, more sensory-friendly alternatives to what is the usual norm. So basically it would mean that for a sensory hour you would have less noise, so it could be that the music in a supermarket is turned off. You could also have the barcode scanners being turned off, so there's no beeping all the time, because that can get really irritating. And then you'd also have the lights either dimmed or turned off. Sometimes organisations won't have them turned off completely just because of security, which is completely understandable, but they dim it at least, which is really cool. I believe some organisations can also turn off the refrigeration hum, which can be quite distressing to some people with noise. Crowds, I haven't really come across any that limit the crowds, but in most cases I've found that despite not limiting the crowds, it has still been a very calming environment, and it's actually, funnily enough, not had crowds. So it's just basically making spaces so calm and collected that it's just peace. Yeah.
Wonderful. So lots of people talk about sensory hours as being for children, autistic children particularly. What is other groups, or what are other groups that can benefit?
So my belief is that autism does not just disappear once you become an adult. It's a lifelong neurological disorder, and you get it from birth, and so you will have it until you pass away. And so I believe that adults benefit just the same as children would. It doesn't stop at childhood. The same sensory issues that I've had when I was a child, I still have today. It's even like, I've found also that other groups like elderly, even though they're not born with sensory difficulties, when they get to an older age, and I've had elderly approach businesses who have told me that they have found it super beneficial to have sensory hours. And I mean, even for children can get overstimulated, babies, toddlers, and having that calm environment just eases their stress or their anxiety. And I think it actually caters to a lot more people than just disabled people. And it caters to a wide variety of people. Disabled people benefit, and so do elderly, and so do children and toddlers, and even adults I've heard have benefited from it, and they don't have any diagnosis at all, and they've said that they really benefited from the quiet hours because it was very it was a relief of stress. Yeah.
Wonderful. I think that is very valid, and I must say I've often been shopping with my mother, who is in her early 70s, and she has said the same thing. It's just too loud, there's too much music, there's too much noise. It's all very overwhelming for her. So I can really see how elderly adults particularly might benefit from a sensory hour.
Yeah.
So can you tell me which particular organisations that you have approached and worked with sensory hours?
So I've approached, so the first thing I did in terms of advocacy was make a petition on the Parliament website to have countdowns in New Zealand, or, well, not countdowns specifically, but supermarkets in New Zealand by law have a sensory hour per week. And Chris Bishop, who is now the Minister of Housing, approached me and wanted to support that position. And so we took it to Parliament. It went to a select committee, which is the people that decide whether it can or can't be furthered on in the process. And by that time, Countdown at the time had already started implementing it. So unfortunately, but also fortunately, they didn't pursue it into law, which was slightly disappointing, but it was also nice to know that Countdown had implemented it throughout the country for their supermarkets. I've also, while being in Dunedin, I've been able to get Roslyn Fresh Choice to do sensory hours, and I've had really good feedback from some of their managers, well, one of their managers, and the owner of Fresh Choice, Roslyn, is an amazing guy, very friendly, very open, and I highly recommend shopping there. I've also done stuff with Rialto Cinemas, so they do something called sensory readings. So basically what that is you'll go into a movie with your child that may be autistic or just sensory, doesn't like a lot of sensory input. And they'll basically turn down the lights, they'll dim the lights, and the noise will be turned down, and you're literally allowed to move across the whole movie. You're allowed to talk. You've got to sit down for 2 hours in the dark and watch a very loud movie. It's very open. You can walk around, kids can play. It's more flexible. And so that's one of the things I got done with Rialto Cinemas, and I believe I've done other things, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But those are the biggest ones that I've probably achieved during the last 7 years.
Oh, that's really wonderful. I'm incredibly enthusiastic about going to the cinema and having a space where kids can move around. I don't know whether you know this. I have 2 neurodiverse children.
Oh, right.
So I have an 8-year-old who has not yet managed to sit through a movie. And it always feels like, just a huge expense to take the family to a movie, knowing that myself or my husband is going to have to take the child out at some point. It just seems like such a waste. Having that space where it is acceptable to move around and to talk and to actually just be comfortable in that space, is a wonderful thing. Just a quick note, when Josh is talking about Countdown, that's currently Woolworths, so in case you were unclear on that. So let's talk about a bit about pushbacks and misconceptions about sensory hours. One response that people might say is, why don't disabled people just come when it's quieter?
Well, it's like saying if most of the world was disabled and there were only a few, and the minority was neurotypical people, it's like saying, why don't the neurotypical people come at the neurotypical hours? It's I think people have got to be open to equality, and in today's world, while 500 years ago it may have been different, today is a very different day and age, and I think we can't just come during a quiet hour, because what defines a quiet hour?
And there are none at Christmas season.
There are none. And that's
There's certain times of year when the shops are just chaos, whichever way you look at it.
Exactly, and it's like every hour has always got some type of busyness, and it's always In fact, I don't know any organisation that if they didn't have that sensory hour, it would always be stimulating. We wouldn't be able to go shopping at all. And some people might say, well, just shop from home. That's a really sad thing for people to say, because it's socially isolating, it's depressing, and it's not really people that are born with a disability, they don't get the choice to have that disability. It's not like we get the option to choose whether we were disabled or not. It's literally, it should be a human right to be able to access sensory hours.
Oh, I agree with you completely there. I mean, this idea that disabled people should just stay at home is just, I mean, it's great. It's a choice. If you want to use internet shopping, if that works for you, wonderful. But you are welcome in the community to do your shopping in person if that's what you want to do, and you should be accommodated to do so. So let's talk about the Dunedin Fringe Festival is coming up. Would you know anything about the Dunedin Fringe Festival?
I have heard of the Dunedin Fringe Festival. I think I went like 10 years ago. I can't remember what it is about, though.
So the Dunedin Fringe Festival is a series of, plays or acts or, artistic renderings of some variety. So a whole lot of artists come from all over the country to Dunedin to perform. And one of the things that they are offering this year to the performers is an Access Award. And one of the things that the performers can do to qualify for this Access Award is to offer sensory hours. So can you tell me whether you've had any experiences with live theatre and sensory hours? I
haven't, but I think that's a really cool idea. I think that's a brilliant idea. I mean, however they're planning to implement it, I'd be all for it, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not entirely clear on the details on how people implement sensory hours in theatre spaces either, because this is not something that I have a lot of experience in. But I would imagine it's things like not being in the complete dark, not having loud music, being able to move around, quiet chatter being acceptable. So I look forward to that. I'm quite interested to see how that all works together. So let's talk a bit about your relationship moving with the sensory hours. So you've done some pretty high impact things, haven't you? I mean, getting Chris Bishop on board was pretty phenomenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was I was quite surprised. That was I'm still close friends with Chris, and he doesn't get a lot of likes, but I respect him for the fact that because in 2019 that he made it possible for me to push forward. He was the motivating factor, and I can't thank him enough for that, because I feel like if I didn't have any support, I would have probably given up. And so I respect him for the fact that he assisted me with getting it out and about. And so, that's one thing I commend him for.
Well, great. I'm really, really pleased that you've managed to have that high impact. And even though it didn't pass into law, the fact that the supermarkets are responding to that and actually bringing that into place, that's what we want. We want action in the advocacy space, and that's what you're getting. And so you should be very, very proud of yourself.
Thank you.
So let's just do some closing reflections here. What would you want decision makers, whether they're councils, businesses or service providers, to understand about sensory access? If you could think about one thing.
I think they need to realise and acknowledge that it's not just neurotypicals in this world. There are people with disabilities that physically, mentally and emotionally cannot handle the current types of business hours that that most people can handle. And I think the biggest thing that I tell them is to encourage that businesses even if there's an incentive for businesses by the council to implement sensory hours, especially at major businesses like Kmart and all that. So that's my. I hope that the council can, I guess, basically just bring businesses to the table. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that on the whole, what New Zealand needs is a really sturdy piece of accessibility legislation that is going to bring an acceptance of making an accommodations into law. That would be absolutely wonderful,
definitely.
and I'd love to see that going forward. So finally, what would you like to say to disabled listeners who may be feeling tired and fatigued about constantly asking for access?
I would say to them, don't give up. Keep pushing for your right to have sensory hours. I would say that I am still advocating for sensory hours. Despite having a busy schedule, I still care deeply about the disabled community and especially about sensory hours, which has been my whole focus. And I'd say to them, approach your local supermarket or warehouse, or approach any local business that is in your town and ask them, hey, would you be open to sensory hours? And you might find that a fair amount of people or a fair amount of business owners will be quite open to it. So even though I'm doing it down here in Dunedin, I encourage all disabled people to go and advocate for their human right to have sensory hours.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us on DPA's Notable Radio today. Goodbye, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Disabled Persons Assembly is Aotearoa, New Zealand's first pan-disability national organisation, providing system-level advocacy for all disabled people. Membership is free for individuals. If you'd like to know more, visit our national website at www.dpa.org.nz or contact your local kaituitui or community connector, Amy Taylor, at kaituitui.otipoti@dpa.org.nz. Disabled Persons Assembly, a whole new attitude.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.